have called and we may have missed him because we've been kind of in and out this morning.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's wonderful to see everybody stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting will please come to order. We do have proof of posting in accordance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code as amended, known as the Texas Open Meetings Act. Any members of the public who wish to speak shall have 5 minutes to address the court. If there are none, we'll go to item number 1, budget transfers and amendments. We have 2. We have a motion to approve these transfers and amendments.
I'll make that motion. Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 2, we don't have any bills for today. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Number 3, any road use agreements?
This one, I was going to check, make sure we got a bond with it the other day when I wasn't here. I think y'all approved it, didn't you?
No, not for that, you mean? I don't think we did.
I don't have the minutes to review.
It
I
was
surely don't
passed.
remember.
It was passed.
It was passed. Thank you, Linda. It was passed. You want to pass it one more time?
No, I won't. Laura, can we come back in a minute? Laura's looking for it.
Oh, okay,
If
sure
they sent
we
the
can.
bond.
We can. We'll come back to that when she comes in. Item number 4 is to set the early voting and election day locations and times.
We are ready to set the time so we can get our coding and everything going. There's 7 entities that I am required to hold their election also, so they need the dates and times and all set for them to get their notices done. I'm recommending that we open all the 15 locations as normal regular locations except for Streetman, the Community Health and Education Building, 203 North Houston Streetman, and it's been checked out that it is handicap accessible, and it would be a good idea to go ahead and move it to there.
All right, that's number 5. So for right now, the first one, number 4, we're setting the early voting and election days, locations and times. What is early voting, Linda?
My suggestion would be the TIG and Fairfield for the 2 solid weeks. We are required to have 2 12-hour days for the city entities. So my recommendation is Tuesday, October the 19th, and Tuesday, October the 27th be our 12-hour days, 7 to 7.
And
The others are 8 to 5.
That is within our 2 weeks.
That's
periods.
correct.
Yeah.
It's
Just
from,
extended time.
that's correct, for the 2 solid weeks in Fairfield and TIG.
Any discussion on that?
What was the dates?
The date is October the 19th through October the 30th.
But the 2 full days.
That would be Tuesday, October the 19th, and Tuesday, October the 27th,
And the time?
7 to 7 on those 12-hour days.
And then the 2 weeks begins on October
19th,
19th. And it's 2 weeks in Teague and 2 weeks in Fairfield. But just those 2 days will be 12-hour days. The rest of them will be 8 to 5.
that's correct.
Any other discussion? If not, do we have a motion to set those days and times?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 5 is moving the Streetman voting location permanently from the City Hall to the Community Health and Education Building. They do have everything available that's needed, Wi-Fi and everything. they have everything that's needed to service the voting. Is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna skip number 6. We'll go to item number 7, budget workshop. All right. We did get our figures from the appraisal district Friday afternoon at 6:39. The certified value, the real value, real property value plus mineral value, less what they call productivity loss, which I can't explain that, gives you a total market value. Then there are some deductions from that, which are various exemptions, exempt property, other types of deductions. And from that, also then, they deduct total value under protest. And he had sent the pages on that, but it's 55 pages. And there are, I don't know how many on each page, but there are a significant amount of values that are under protest. And so deducting that and other exemptions comes down to a net taxable value adjusted for protest. Let's see if there's any other deduction. And that value is just a little bit above what our last year's taxable values were. And I just saw this morning, because it came in Friday after work. And so I haven't figured the amount that actually, the difference in the amount, but it's gonna be really close to what we had last year. So that's what our thought process is at this moment. By Wednesday, I'll have that for you. But saying that, we'll look at it, consider that when we're talking about our budget figure, because we'll be pretty much at what we were last year. We will again this year show the budget for the capital murder trial, which we're not sure if it'll go this next year or not. But like we've done this year, this current year, we had budgeted $1 million, and all we spent out of that are expenses that are related to the capital murder trial. Karen, do you have an idea? Well, when we get back further in the year, it'll show how much we spent. Wasn't it about 60-something?
About 80,000.
About 80,000. Yeah, I didn't.
And it might be a little bit less, but it's right around there. That's what
We'll
was.
get to that as we go through these sheets, but that's all that has been spent out of that money. And so, I'm requesting that we budget the same amount for this year, since now we know it's gonna be a change of venue. It's gonna be expensive, and you know that. But anyway, and we've talked to Judge Simmons, and he feels like that we'll be safe within that. And we're not, going to move any money out to other expenses. That's strictly designated for that. Now, you have just a draft that is printed out, and you can look through this, looking at what's on the sheet here, looking at what the requests are. There are a few things that I know we have to discuss, so they're not put in there yet, and we'll discuss whether to add those or not. But if you have, I know you have your prior sheets, and if you don't have a prior set of sheets, then you can get a copy of them and match them together to see where we are on that. So we'll start with if you want to go through the sheets today, or you want to take those and look at those and take them with you and then talk more about them Wednesday, but we can go through them fairly quickly today just to get an overview, if that's all right. Y'all good with that? Okay. The first page is 400. Department 400, and that's the county judges. The amount on the first column is,
Are you in this deal?
skip those first 2 pages. That's the income, and that's not completed, because we just got those amounts from Bud. But as we're going through, we know we're gonna have about the same money as we had last year. So if you look at the third page, Department 400, that's county judge. And the first column is the requested budget. And then the next column with numbers on it is last year's budget. Now, in some instances, last year's budget amounts, that's not the true budget amount. That's the budget amount with, if there have been any transfers during the time. Do you need another copy of something? Anybody?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you got your copies?
Yeah.
Come in, Sheriff. If you'd like to, I think there's room over there. Item, Department 400, that's the third page. All right, on that first column, $248,490.25. And before it was, last year's was $247,000, $327. No, 320, yeah. $247,327.26. And I think the main difference is going to be in the payroll
Yeah,
amounts. Sir?
retirement.
Retirement, yeah. A few of those little things went up, and we don't have any control over that. So, all right. Any discussion on that? If not, we go to the next one. Auditor. The amount that's on this sheet for request is $185,459.76. Now, the auditor is requesting to move that part-time person to return it to a full-time position. It used to be a full-time position, and we changed it to a part-time position when Dawn was here. So she is requesting to move that to a full-time position, and I think you have some backup in the original set of stuff that I had given to you, and it talks about what she's, it talks about the position. And one of the main things is it'll be a purchasing position, isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I know that there's been some questions about a lot of people purchasing things when they could have gotten, or ordering things when they could have gotten things a little cheaper if we had somebody that was comparing those prices. You want to say anything else about that right now?
No, other than, I did speak with the district judges, both of them, and they were in full agreement that this position be returned back to the full-time position. And I do take the finances of the county very serious. I feel strongly that returning this position to a full-time position would be in the best interest of the county. We do handle all of the finances for the county, all of the insurance, all of the purchasing, all of the payables, everything, the contracts, interlocal agreements. We try to keep up with all those. The driver's license, we make sure that we stay in compliance with our Freestone County DMV policy. So we do a lot, and I do feel real strong about it. And I'm just asking the court to consider moving this position back to the full-time position.
Any questions? Discussion? There were a couple of other changes on there. You can see those.
put the 2,000 on the conference, which that was the difference in the amounts on there. You had, because I usually just have the $1,000, but we've added that,
But
whoever put
You had
that.
that on your request, wasn't it?
I did, I put that on the
Okay,
request.
I thought you meant I just added it.
No,
I
no.
could have, if any of these.
No, but that's the difference in that amount there from this
Also,
time.
if there is anything, we put all these figures in, but we could have made a mistake too. So if you have a question about something, we'll be glad to look at it and talk about it. All right, we'll move to the county treasurer. And the county treasurer's, what's put in is the same, basically the same as it was for the year before, with a little change in the retirement. But now, treasurer, and you'll see this on the sheet that she turned in, you have a copy of that. She's requesting a raise for her clerk. Jeannie, you want to talk about that?
I've just have asked for the last couple of years for my clerk to make what I made when I left that position, because the position really has not changed. It hasn't been granted to me yet, and so I'm just asking for my clerk to be moved up either to a different one on the salary grade, different position on the salary grade, and with the one that was added in for the district judge's office, so.
I see. Because right now, she's in with the chief deputies, isn't that right?
I didn't bring a copy of that with me.
I didn't either.
So.
Okay, we'll look at that Wednesday then, if there's a question about that. Any discussion on that? Anybody have any questions on that? I think everything else is the same. All right, Department 430, tax assessor. This one did decrease a little. One of the things was on agreements and leases. Did that decrease? Also, we're having a change in, we had a retirement in that office, and that person had a high salary. And so then the next person was hired in at the higher end amount, and so salary decreased on that. When salary decreases, then all the payroll taxes, retirement, and everything else does. Any discussion? If not, we'll go to Commissioner's Court. I did increase the conference expense for this time just a little because we will have a new person on the court and probably have to have some an additional training. Newly elected officers training. All right. No discussion on that. County court. I know it looks, as you look through this, when you look at last year, some of the things that we budgeted for, we did not spend money, but it's because, a lot of it's because of the COVID, because we've not been able to have court, or we've not done a lot of the other activities that we normally would do. So, just because we didn't spend much this year on jurors and that kind of thing, it's because we couldn't have court. So I budgeted what we had budgeted the year before, and hopefully we'll be
Judge Grant, on this, the
in the
thing about
hole.
the Commissioner's Court, I know you added some money, but is that gonna be enough for the new commissioner to go? I mean, I know it's still for a week of new commissioner school.
Well, I don't think you have to pay the registration fee, all you have to pay
You have to pay
is expenses.
hotel,
And
whatever.
They may reimburse for that, I can't remember.
No, I mean, I don't know.
I know.
I don't think so. You think that's enough? I mean,
I have no idea. We can, well, we spent this year $2,100. If not, we can always do a budget transfer.
Okay.
I would think, looking at that it should be. But if not, we can make a budget transfer to cover it. It's not enough. But I don't know anybody in here that's newly elected enough that would remember probably on that newly elected school. Now you have to go to Austin for it for a few days.
We had to go for a week first time, and then we went, that was in
We went to-
January, I think, then we had to turn around and go back in February for,
For the regular,
yeah.
well, do you remember if they paid for any of that, or you have to pay for it
Yeah.
and then get reimbursed, or what?
Judge, when I went to it, they didn't reimburse,
They did not reimburse.
I don't look for the reimbursement, nothing.
Well, I tell you what, let's just go back and make that,
But you can move some over later on if you do, it's no problem.
yeah, okay, we're good. All right, let's go to, Linda's not here, so we'll come back to hers Wednesday, but the question on there, she needed $1,000 for chairs. And so we'll talk to her about that, and probably talk to her about, conference. I know that when she goes, she gets reimbursed for a lot of those conferences, so we'll see if that's enough, and if not, we'll talk about that Wednesday. All right, county attorney is the next one. He's in court this morning, so he may be in court Wednesday, but, he is, we don't have anything in the capital litigation line item, and so we'll talk about that. And also, he's gonna request an increase in salary for one of his investigator. He had been paying it out of another fund, but, that he's not getting the reimbursement for that, so, he's gonna need to change that over to salary rather than reimbursement out of that special fund. Other than that, I think everything is basically the same. Next is justice court. And then, you can see there, we didn't
So-
spend any.
You can't shut that door. You have to open it back up. Thank you.
We had budgeted 300, we didn't spend anything, but we certainly probably will spend a lot more this time, once we get to have court again. And then 525, district court. We were, Dee, you may remember better than and I asked Karen, she wasn't sure either. But the reason that salary is more, isn't it because last year they gave the court reporters a raise in January? Will you look
Yeah,
at
so
that part?
we have one court reporter, that runs the same as the county stuff, and we have one court reporter that runs January to December. So every January, if there's a 2% raise, then we have to adjust that in January. And then we adjust one in October.
Okay,
If
now
that
let's
was-
look at that again, so then we can explain it better on Wednesday. All right. But the 91 is what the current salary is, I just didn't remember why, but I do think it was a raise for the court reporters that the district judges did. But other than that, if you'll look down, we did increase the amount in jurors. Since the district court has not been able to have jury trials, they're anticipating that once they do open again, that there's gonna be a lot more at the beginning. So for the year, they're gonna spend more money. And as you can see, we budgeted 10,000 last year, and they haven't spent 1,600. So
That budget went up $15,000.
mhm. 5 of it was in the juror line item. But as you can see, we probably want to spend 2,000, so about 8,000 that we budgeted for this year that we didn't spend. So it's not like it's really an increase, it's just that so much of it's rolled over to the next year, although it doesn't technically roll over, but it's gonna be a heavy caseload when it does start in September. Next sheet is probation. They're exactly the same as they were before. District clerk. Basically no changing. Indigent. Even though we've not had court, we have had people that have been arrested and they have requested court-appointed attorneys. But since we've not been able to get them to trial or to court to plead, those attorneys have not turned in their request forms for indigent defense. So anticipating that we'll have a higher expense for this next year once they do start actually coming back and trying them. So that's why that increases in the district court, not so much in the county court. Any questions on the indigent defense? And after you look at these, we'll be going over these again Wednesday for more discussion. All right, JPs, that's on page 18. JPs, if you have your printouts from the last packet, with the last packet, you can look at that and see what they are requesting. They're requesting raises for their clerks and that all the JPs be raised to about $5,000 a year. I don't have that figure in front of me. Wait, I do too. This one is to raise the salary to $52,000. And then the clerks, it doesn't have an amount there, but to raise the clerks to the same as the chief deputies.
Which one is that?
On page 18
Yeah.
is JP 1. All of the JPs are requesting that their salaries be raised and their clerks. JP 1 and 3 are asking an increase in part-time. JP 4 is requesting an increase in travel to $10,000. I know we're going kind of fast onto this, but it's probably will be easier when you look at it on your own. You take the time to really analyze it. I'm just pointing things out. If you have any discussion, just we have time for it. That one the JPs may take a little more time for you to look at and kind of analyze with the sheet showing what they requested. All right, let's go then to highway patrol, which is 555. raise in salary for the JP clerk. I'm sorry, the highway patrol clerk. And I believe it was to 30,000 is what their current salary is, 25,200. The next page is state officials, and we have not been finding anything from them. They've not requested anything. 560 is miscellaneous. Little increase in indigent defense, and this is for CPS cases, Child Protective Services cases, and Karen, don't we do Attorney General cases in this sometimes too?
All civil cases, yes, ma'am.
That's how much it's up.
Discussion. All right, now we'll go to 561, Constable Precinct 1. I see that Buck is here. And Buck had requested just a little bit of changes, increase in some of his expenses. Now, on the books, you had asked for an increase for books. I think those only come out every other year. And you got them this year, so it'd skip a year, and next year you'd get new books.
Well, one thing we've been paying out of our pocket is the thing with Tico that we got to, it's
But
about
right now, I'm sorry, if you'll speak up, I'm sure we're not.
well, with the Texas Law Enforcement Commission, you know, we had to have some kind of connection with them, which cost us like about $170. I think several years ago, Bill was just paying for all that out of his own pocket. I think he spent over $400 or $500 out of his own money to pay for that. Actually, I should have had it in my budget. But I guess I was trying to keep the budget down as low as possible. We just paid for it out of our own pocket, but
Well, no, we need to budget what you need. You don't,
well, I've done that this year. I basically put that in there. Just, I know the book prices have gone up.
so you think for this year, since it's not the year that all of those, the statutes come out, they came out last year. Or, well, this year, actually.
We got new books already, but,
Okay, so do you think you'll need more than $350 for
Yes.
those?
well, it's usually, got to move money around on a lot of the books and stuff. I just know the price of the books has gone up compared to what it used to be. More than what I think. But, I don't know, just kind of what I got in here, I think, you know, be a pretty good,
Okay.
y'all got any questions about anything?
All right, might need to add a little bit more back on that then, because it's different than the statute books, right? Different books that you're
Well,
on.
we got a criminal book and a civil book, so, you know, we gave it with two. But, you know, there's several books involved in the
Yeah.
the
Well,
civil.
I know you bought $665 worth this year. You think you'll need that much next year?
Well, you know, the legislature just meets every 2 years, so
That's what
I'm
I'm
thinking
saying.
them books will be good for 2 years.
That's right.
What I'm thinking, till the legislature, you know, meets next year, then the following year might have to.
Might have to add some
Yeah.
more on. Okay, thank you. All right, and then that's for precinct, that's Constable Precinct 1, Precinct 2. And then Precinct 3 and Precinct 4, so you can look at those and, when we get the new constables in, they may need some things, but usually they will wait and they'll request what they need when they come into office. But we put the basic stuff on their sheets, and then what additional they need, we'll talk about it at that time, when that change happens. All right, now we are 570, this is on page 29. If you'll look at what's on here, most everything is about the same as it was last year. Just a few little changes. As far as, let's see. And then the salary wanted to, the sheriff wanted to talk about some salary changes. And if you'll look at your printout, your first printout that you got, there's some sheets behind 570, and it's listed what changes that he's requested. Now, we did take off the, no, it's in the jail, that 30,000 in the jail for the, we took that off and put it in care of prisoners. So that's one main difference on the jail thing. I just have to think about that while I mention it. But now, so I won't forget it. He is requesting a change for lieutenants on patrol, CID lieutenants, sergeants, patrol sergeants and CID, and then the deputies and the jail transport.
So now the capital outlay, his budget this year, he's down 300,000.
Well, and part of it is that capital outlay because it doesn't have any cars on there.
Right.
And Judge Grant, that's the thing with that. I mean, I'm assuming they're gonna come in, so we don't know. I mean, right now, they haven't come in yet, so we're looking at, possibly needing that.
2 more months.
We've been waiting on it since December.
I know. I didn't really
Yeah, what
realize
now?
I
that.
thought about that this weekend.
They shut all the factories down, and so the cars never came
You
in.
mind pulling that
Well,
down?
they shut all the factories down and different components of all those vehicles, and so they've never made it here yet.
Hmm.
We call once a month to check on them.
If they don't come in this year, which is only August and September, and they come in next year, I guess we could put that in a special contingency line item so that if they come in next year, we'll at least have it in the budget. Otherwise, we'd be scrambling around, really scrambling around.
Y'all reimburse the county because the car will be a year old.
Right? That's true. He said they ought to reimburse the county because the car's gonna be a year old by the time we get it.
That's exactly right, that's a good
I'll
idea.
remember that, bud.
That's a good idea.
I don't know, if we made it 1 year without it, we might make it another year without it.
No, we haven't. We've had to fix vehicles. We've got one that needs a whole new transmission. It's out of commission now. It was supposed to be a trade-in. And
Could you talk to them about giving you a newer model then, or a discounted price, since if you were buying them outright right now, they'd be cheaper? That's a good
that's
idea.
what I'm saying. I'm gonna mention that.
And this was last year, and we ain't got them yet.
They got them yet.
They were ordered back in November, December.
This is the first day I've heard about it.
We got the van,
that y'all approved
Yes,
last
we
year.
did get the transport van.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, Lordy.
And that van price was in this 210, is that right? Okay, so how much actually is it for the cars? How much was the van?
I think what's
60?
left is 159,000
150.
in the balance of that account.
How many cars are we supposed to be getting?
Still waiting on 3.
3?
Yeah, we're not the only ones.
Wow. Do you want to talk to me about the adjustment that you're requesting? Or you want to do that Wednesday?
Yeah, we can do that. They can look it over. We can just, we'll have plenty of time to discuss.
Yeah. Okay. All right. 911 is the next page, page 30. It's the same salary, same total budget as he had last year, except retirement and had a little hiccup in how we've expensed out our medical insurance. So that's not exactly correct at 33,000. But basically, care of prisoners, which is on page 31. We added a line item for mental health. That's that $30,000 that was mandated by the state for that telecommunications on that doctor contract. Just another thing that you can thank your government for, your state government for.
Well, there's nothing there for inmate medical.
We've moved that over, Judge Grant, to 632 for that indigent health for reporting purposes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's in there, it's just in another spot.
It's in a different department.
Excuse me. All right, item number 32, extension service, and she is requesting more part-time. We have it budgeted for 20 hours a week for the part-time secretary. She's requesting additional funds to increase the time over part-time, or over the 20 hours a week.
$12,400 this year,
I'm sorry?
$12,400 in this year.
There is, and we're gonna have to make a budget transfer or something, because she has actually been letting her work more than the 20 hours, so she's run out of money.
Yeah, she's at 12,120 now.
But that's a different issue than the budget issue. It's budgeted for the 20 hours that was set up to be a 20-hour part-time job.
She didn't know that?
Mhm.
She didn't know that?
I assumed that she did. We will be talking about it, I'm sure. 610 is elections. And Linda has some stuff attached to the original that you got, showing what new equipment that is being requested, and it's somewhere around $289,000. I know there's a grant that is available to pay part of that, and I think it's $95,000 as the match. Isn't that what we figured out it was? So, but other than that, it's election workers is going to be down just a little bit, 8,000. Sometimes pay air conditioners out of this fund. A lot of air conditioners go out this year. I guess so many haven't been put in when we actually put in the air conditioning units in here at the same time, then they're all going out at the same time. Things like. All right, the next one is health and welfare. Solid waste is in this, and I know they've gone up on their expenses, their monthly rentals and everything, haven't they, Karen?
Yes, ma'am.
So that price increase, we might need to increase that solid waste.
Hey, can we go back to page 34?
Page 34.
One up forward on there.
25,000
is for what? Equipment and furniture? Is this in the courthouse?
Yes, and we didn't use any of that last year.
Yeah, I see that.
I don't know if, Larry has said he needs to do some more cameras for the courthouse. There's some blind spots, and he's requesting some cameras. I don't have the quote on that yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know of any actual furniture and fixtures that we need, other than if there's something along those lines.
What's the capital outlay for 250?
Well, that will be the planning grant that we approved. We're gonna put that out, and it will be paid during this next year. And that'll probably be $30,000 or $40,000. And then from there, the next thing you do is, no, actually that is, let me think what they call it. That is the assessment of the courthouse that you have to do first. Then you do the planning grant, and this is for the historical commission. And then once you do that planning grant, then you can apply for a grant. So hopefully we can get all of that done and get that outside restoration started. We have this year, you know, we had to do we're still doing some additional things in the courtroom. But then we also transferred some money out of that for various air conditioning units and things like that. Because I know we've replaced one on the jail, and I think we're gonna have to replace another one soon.
We actually replaced 2 this past year.
2 in over the jail.
Already, yeah.
Already. And numerous ones for other locations. Okay, now we'll go to county services on page 36.
35.
35?
Past
Well, I want to know that, on indigent healthcare, that 40 grand is not showing up.
Looks like they made a new fund for it, 632, so.
That's what y'all were talking about a while ago?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
The indigent medical
Understand.
in the jail, care of prisoners, and this indigent health care both
Okay.
have gone to that. What's that number? Oh, it's 632, it's on page 37. Although,
And the inmates, it's not in there.
it's not.
636.55.
So we need that 75 over here.
75,000.
We got it deleted on care of prisoners, but I didn't get it. And it's probably gonna be more than that. Of course, we had a lot of unusual things this year. So 75 might be enough, but, when you're thinking about that, Jeremy, it's hard to know what to budget on that
It is,
for care of prisoners.
it is because one of the, if you notice, we're way below what our normal is for this entire year. Like $200 and something thousand, in inmate housing. I mean, we're below a lot of different things in that line item. So it just depends on your inmates and depends on the problems they bring.
Well, I was talking about medical though, really. You know, one air flight is,
Oh,
yeah, and I think, because we were down pretty, we've had some people that had to have operations and various things this year that's run the cost up.
And we're housing all the state inmates still, because they haven't ever accepted them yet. So
Hopefully-
we've got a lot of medical on them, but we should get reimbursed for
We
that.
should get reimbursed, yeah, for that, but you have to pay it out initially.
But overall, as far as our expenses for the inmates, medical, the housing, we're way down, way below normal this time of year, which is good.
Well, on the medical, we budgeted 75 and we're already to 70, but we will get reimbursed for some of that, but that,
If I'm not mistaken, I think we spent $150,000 just on state inmates this year so far.
on housing and medical.
Yeah. And that's, normally they're gone. We don't have that, as much of that expense. But even with that, we're still below.
So we're gonna put the 40 plus 35?
75 for the health care for inmates, 75. And we're almost to that much for this year. Of course, like you said, we've got some people that we're housing that we normally don't house, but we're gonna go over the 75 for this year, because we've got 2 more months. So if you look back on where we are on is it 642? No, yeah. What's that number?
575.
575. 575 is where we were budgeting,
Page 31.
page 31. Thank you. It's easier. Page 31, we have 75,000 budgeted for inmate medical, and we've already spent 70,000 for this year. If we hadn't been still housing all of these others, it wouldn't have been that much. But if you look back, 19 it was almost 60,000. The year before, in 18, it was 102,000. So we can budget less, and as long as we have a contingency, we can transfer money there if we don't have it.
You just never know.
So it's, are you wanting to budget less in that line item?
No, I'm still confused on the 40 not being on the indigent health care.
Well, if you look on page 37, it's on that page now. And the reason is, what is the reason, Jeannie?
So how they explained it to us at the state is unless something comes out of the indigent budget, we cannot ask for reimbursement from the state if we ever hit our 8%. And so, so since they were taking that out of care of prisoners line item before, we couldn't even claim that towards that number. And so, we haven't hit that number, but we couldn't even claim it. We were in the beginning when we found out that we were not supposed to be doing that. So they've now moved it to a line item that's just indigent, so that if we do have a bunch of claims, inmate claims, and we hit that number, then we can ask the state for reimbursement for that, if we ever hit that number.
So what is the 632, 654 right above on page 37?
That's the one we're moving from page 31.
We're gonna put it on 37? 75? Okay,
So I'll write that in, and then I'll have it.
Write it in.
Write it
Okay.
in. Yeah. And I wrote it in on mine, so I'll put it in.
Okay. That's 120 back.
It'll be
115.
115.
Oh, 20 bucks a week. Next budget.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, page 35, health and welfare. I think we talked about that, and the only one that is really questionable is I need to go back and look at that solid waste again. We may need to increase that a little bit. So on page 36, we have county services. Salaries, and then part-time is emergency management and Steve. Half of Steve's salary comes out of this, and half of Steve's salary comes out of 911. And the same for the expenses, but Steve's and Monty's come out of there.
Which one is this? What comes out of here?
Out of here. On the part-time line item, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Part-time line item is Monty and Ray Newsom from down at the View transfer station. And then the salary part is Bill Manning and part of Steve's salary.
Madden and Black.
Steve, he does the septic inspections and all of that.
How many hours does Mr. Newsom work at the dump? Do you know?
22 hours a week.
The emergency management person, 20 hours a week?
And then on here also we have, Monty wanted to talk to us about some emergency management supplies and equipment that he is requesting, that we put into the budget.
I talked to the judge a little bit the other day. I didn't come up there. This good.
Everybody here? I think everybody here.
We looked at, and I don't have any hard dollars. Right now, I brought a vendor in to look at the emergency management trailer to see what it needed to be repaired. I don't have the numbers back from him. My estimate on it, just because I want to know what a lot of this stuff costs, we're looking about $25,000
$25,000.
to get it back up to stuff where it needs to be. It has to have it's got cameras on it, has to have new cameras, new awnings, and a lot of the insides has to be redone. New air conditioner and all on the other. Just by the expense of that stuff, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be what it's gonna cost. You know, I don't have hard dollars on that. The office, there needs to be a lot of repairs.
Let me just ask you, explain what that trailer is for and when it will be used.
That trailer
That trailer is for any major emergency or catastrophe. When we've had to search for people, it makes a good command post. It's got radios. We've got room for portable radios in there. We've got base station radios in there. You can rig it up with computers, and you've got a lot of the instant command stuff you need to perform these searches or to perform instant command in major disasters out of it. So you've got your command staff working out of that while you're directing other people out in the field and things needs to be done. Plus, if you have like major fires, you've got a good spot for people to rehab with. You can take it out and people can rehab, and you can still communicate with the folks in the field. So that way you're not hurting anybody, you're actually there and you're able to rehab people and get them ready to go for the next round. I mean, its use is really unlimited. There's a lot of things can be done with that trailer. It's never been used, it's never been utilized. I think the most it was ever used was, I think, when Sheriff Billings, they kept it over at the jail and used it, I guess, when the dispatch there was down for some reason. You know, and it stayed there forever, but it was bought in, I think, '01. So it's got some age on it, but the trailer itself is in good shape. It's a heavy built trailer. So it will have its own generator, and so it can do a lot of stuff. Especially if some storm comes through and should have to wipe out some of our communications abilities and dispatch abilities to the sheriff's office. It can be a great replacement for that. You know, and that you know, that's what part of emergency management is for, is to try to foresee these things and get this stuff built up for it. So that good enough explanation? Any questions on the trailer? Anybody have any other questions on the trailer? I mean, it's a great piece of equipment if we'll utilize it correctly. Okay. Next thing was the building that I'm in, the office that I'm in. It's not very good shape. The roof is pretty bad on it. An air conditioner was added a few years ago. The brick wasn't secured properly. The brick is now starting to fall off of it. You can see directly inside the building from the outside. So the electrical, it only has 2-prong plugs in there, and in today's environment with electronics, you definitely don't want that. Okay, you need a ground prong on your plug-ins, and it doesn't have that. It's been worked at as far as trying to make things work in it. It would be better if the water lines ran inside the walls instead of outside. And that's whether it's basically a temporary fix. It's been done and it's been left that way. It needs a lot of work. The lighting is bad inside. One of the light switches isn't working right now, in fact. So it needs quite a bit of work on it. And I'm estimating probably $20,000 to fix it, to get it back up to snuff. You know, put a new roof on it, your electrical, your plumbing, and then the inside repairs. And that includes the brick replacement, brick repair on the outside. And I don't know, this might not be the proper spot, stop me if it isn't. The county does not have a functioning EOC, Emergency Operations Center. We need an EOC, a place where if you have a major emergency come in, that you can have a group of people that are in there. You have to have multiple phone lines, radio communications, internet access, and everything. That way people come in, and as you're bringing outside resources in, you're directing them, you're communicating with them, and you're keeping up with everyone at the same time. The county does not really have a spot for that at this time. The trailer could be used at that. It's more of a field operation though. You need something where people are close in here and not necessarily out in the mix in the fields. And I don't have any kind of quotes on no prices on that at all. That would be a large investment. So I would like to see us purchase some drums of foam from the Forest Service to give out to the fire departments.
Somewhat now?
Drums of foam and soap.
Oh.
Use in fighting these grass fires. Some will make your water go about 3 or 4 times as far. Like to see some of that, Bob. 6 or 8 drums of that. It's $5 a gallon, I believe. But it is a real benefit to have. The fire departments currently are buying it. We could buy it and supply it to them, it'd be that much better. And other than the truck that I'm currently using is the same age as that trailer. Doesn't have a ton of miles on it, but it's got a lot of age on it. So it's gonna need to be replaced also at some point. Any questions?
Now, you had asked me to talk about making this a full-time position.
Yes. Do you want to do that now?
Yes.
Okay. This position, we set this at 20 hours. I don't think I've hit 20 hours yet. I think I've been over every time. Judge fusses at me quite often. It is almost impossible to keep it at 20 hours, depending on what's going on. If we have, like the storm when we had the rainfall and the fatality, I could have featured 16 to 18 hours because I was out early that morning until late that afternoon. We didn't do that, But to do the things that this job requires, not even mentioning the amount of paperwork it has got to be gone through and organized, and I've been trying to do that, but it is a slow process. We have safety data sheets that all these companies send in that are piled in a file cabinet. I'm having to go through them. You have to go through them little by little and get rid of the old ones because they've just been stuffed away. And they need to be organized, they need to be filed, and that kind of stuff, and they need to be set up electronically. So it's much easier to get to. Have it set up electronically where I can go through it through like Google Docs or something that way. Then you can use it out in the field. Where it's there sitting in that office, it's basically useless unless somebody runs back up there and grabs it and gets it. So anyway, it's kind of off subject, but the different things that we're having to do just creates a ton of work. And if you want to keep it at 20 hours, you're not ever going to get it accomplished. And to set this county up to be prepared for a major emergency, for a tornado to come through and wipe out half the city or half of Wildwood, or Westwood, or any of these areas. The county's not prepared at this point. The fire departments are going to do everything they can, and they're a great group of people. They know what they're doing, but they can only go so far. They're going to respond, but to prepare, to be ready for that, to ready the citizens for that, to ready to be able to clean it up, to be ready to help these folks during the cleanup of things. That's where emergency management comes in. That's where the prepare, to mitigate, to clean up, to prevent, do all of that. And that's what this job is doing. Setting up CERT teams, which is citizen emergency response teams. Setting them up. They have a definite place in the emergency management, the emergency services role. Set them up, you train them. The LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee. We need to have a local emergency planning committee. COVID has gotten in the way of both of these things. So we really don't want to pull a bunch of people in and do a bunch of close-in training with folks like that to get that. But that's something that needs to be done. We need those pretty bad. I believe those are state requirements also.
We talked about that, but got sidetracked.
And we actually started, but COVID came in and got in the way of a whole bunch of stuff. We've got some information down and have some people that are ready, and I've even got a couple of volunteers right now I've been talking to that are ready to jump on it, but we kind of feel obligated not to throw them in the mix right now.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Judge Grant, are we going to take a recess? Are we taking a break at all?
No, we're almost through.
Okay. it's dying.
Do we need to take a break?
If I can get the charger.
Change the camera? Let's take about a 5-minute break.